Anyway, they were talking about this Johnson & Johnson thing and like how, people who were going to get it like would lose faith. My attitude is like just based on efficacy. And again, like if we all are believing that this virus was the end of the fucking world, I would rather people were unable to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and were forced now to get the Pfizer or Moderna one,
right?
Which is more effective. Not to mention, Johnson & Johnson has a ton of litigation against them for like talcum powder and like cancer-causing agents in their products that they knew were in there and still let them be on the market and whatever. Johnson & Johnson, like, and Pfizer probably has a ton of litigation against them too, but Johnson & Johnson's has been very visible. So like avoiding their products in general is just a good idea, like, and just based on like what they knew and what they chose to like still expose the public to. So yeah, so like anyway, so the interesting thing is okay, so like it's only women being affected by this particular.
Yeah, 6 women were affected by the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that had them experience extreme blood clots, particularly in their sinuses, you said?
Right. So
that spread to their brain.
I actually have an article that specifically talks about that because it was hard to find articles that didn't just say like, oh, the FDA canceled it, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, like I have it pulled up here. Here we go.
All right. If you've recently had the J&J vaccine, watch for these rare symptoms, says the CDC. If you experience a severe headache that does not go away, significant abdominal or leg pain that does not subside, or increasing shortness of breath, health officials want you to call your doctor immediately. And I want to get back to Yana's comment here when we finish this article. Those could be signs of an extremely rare, severe type of clot that may be linked to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So rare that only 6 cases have been reported in the United States out of approximately 7 million Johnson & Johnson doses.
I mean, like, again, based on like these 6 reported cases, like it is a less than a 1 in a million chance this would happen to you. Mm-hmm. But simultaneously, when you hear them explain what it causes, it's enough for concern.
Yes, for sure.
And there's another article I have next that will sort of, I think, lock in the future of this.
Okay, so, however, if you received the J&J vaccine more than a month ago, the risk is very low, said Dr. Ann Schuchat, Principal Deputy Director of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Oh, that bitch? Is that the black-haired, short black hair? Is that her? The one who is like impending doom or whatever?
Yes.
Her,
yeah. That, and she's out of her fucking mind. Yeah.
She is. She's so scared of the world. During a virtual briefing on Tuesday, the CDC announced 6 women between the ages of 18 and 48 developed a cerebral venous sinus thrombosis, a clot in the area of the brain that collects and drains oxygen-depleted blood. When this happens, blood cells may break and leak blood into the brain tissues, forming a hemorrhage.
Okay, so that's what I wanted you to read. So,
Jesus Christ.
That's enough.
That's scary enough for me to be like, I don't really want that one.
Thank you.
I could be 1 in a million. I am a star after all. So
right, yes.
That could be me.
We can't sacrifice that cute little nose. So what did Yana say?
If you don't mind scrolling up a little bit.
Yeah.
She commented, I think her sister got the Johnson & Johnson. My sister is allergic to antibiotics, but she got the Johnson & Johnson to minimize the risk of her developing an allergy to the ingredients. Apparently, you have a higher chance of developing an allergy after the second introduction. Not sure, fact check it, but it's been fine for her so far. This was before the allegations, though, LMAO.
Yeah, I mean, again, it is like a 1 in a million chance, but it's like the kind of I'm not I don't have a cunt, I'm not a woman, so it's like, but at the same time, it's like the like taking something that could theoretically make my sinuses explode in my brain. It's like, well, yeah, no, thank you. And so, but it's so okay. So the big question is, and I was talking to my parents about this last night when this was like first being reported. When will the Johnson & Johnson vaccine be available again? I don't think ever. And based on this article here, based on the one that the similar one that's available in Europe.
Oh, the EU commissioned to end AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson vaccine contracts at expiry paper. The EU, what?
Milan, yeah.
The EU Commission has decided to not renew Vaccine contracts next year with AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson. Italian daily La Stampa reported on Wednesday, citing a source from the Italian health ministry. The European Commission, in agreement with the leaders of many EU countries, has decided that the contracts with the companies that produce viral vector vaccines that are valid for the current year will not be renewed at their expiry, the newspaper reported. It added that Brussels would rather focus on COVID-19 vaccines using messenger RNA technology such as Pfizer's and Moderna's. This vaccine, it's making me lose control of my mouth. A spokesman for the EU Commission said it was keeping all options open to be prepared for the next stages of the pandemic for 2022 and beyond. We cannot, however, comment on contractual issues, said the spokesman. Later on Wednesday, the president of the European Commission said the EU was in talks with Pfizer and BioNTech for a new contract for 1.8 billion doses.
So okay, you get it.
Yeah, we totally get it.
Yes.
Goodbye.
So, yeah, and so like I think that's going to happen here. Like unless again it's going to be foisted upon. I said something in the car, and this is just a cynical fruit basket prediction, kind of like our George Floyd thing, which we'll get into here shortly.
Yeah.
Is I think what's going to be weird about this, like depending on what you get, is you're going to be locked into the company that you got the vaccine from. Meaning, they're basically what they're saying is that this isn't going away. Mm-hmm. And, theoretically with viruses, they mutate till they mutate, they get aggressive but less deadly, right? Like that's kind of like how these things work.
More infectious, less deadly.
Right. So we're like, that'll probably be the next 5 years of our life, with COVID. But I think what's going to be weird is that whatever company you got the vaccination from, you're going to be locked into getting the booster from that company until this moment in time happens. And the financial implications of that, or the insurance implications, or whatever, is going to be kind of fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. This idea that you must ride or die with a company until this thing ends, especially like if they do like what Whitney Webb talked about, like in terms of like vaccine passports and all this shit. Like it's going to be really interesting about how the like sort of inconvenience of not being able to prove you got it infiltrates our lives to a degree to where people who are even hesitant will end up getting it, which is fucked up. But they shouldn't do that, obviously. The vaccine passport thing is so retarded. Like I mean, it's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. Like I mean, and again, like why even float that concept? It's like people who don't get it could get it and die, get COVID and die. But people who get the vaccine, you're fine. So it's like let people make these choices and like run these risks, and who cares? Like I don't really get like why that wasn't the messaging when this shit first popped off last March. Like it just seems bizarre. Like and again, totalitarian, almost like Whitney Webb said, like almost like a dry run for some kind of fascism. Like I'm not invoking like World War II, but like the dictionary definition of what fascism is. I mean, which is kind of what lockdowns were. It was gross. It was stupid. It was miscalculated, and places like Texas and Florida, who did the opposite, and everyone was screeching about it.
They're prospering.
They're doing perfectly fine, and they didn't destroy their economy to the degree that here in California did, or New York. So,
right, like what will make it all worth it? Because our economy's gone. California being a mass producer of education, entertainment, a huge producer of entertainment. Like all that has disappeared. It's now, like you just said, a failed state. I think like we will see the long-term repercussions of this, of lockdowns and whatever, to hurt us more and probably kill more people than this virus. I'll be honest, like the amount of people who probably turn to alcoholism, the amount of people who lost their jobs, who don't have money, who will end up homeless.
The deaths of despair are going to far outnumber. I mean, because again, like we said it pretty early on. Like what was funny, like not funny, but like interesting to me was that we, when only when Trump was president, which is like a very important note to make, about like how, and again, like this sort of hysteria about him, who basically from a policy standpoint moderated the country like a moderate Democrat. I mean, really, like, but why the entire political media complex was so hysterical about him concerning what they were trying to convince us was a health crisis sort of made them lose legitimacy with people who sort of are curious like you and I.
Yeah.
And so, fuck, I lost my train of thought. Like, it's the vaccine. It did it.
The vaccine, the brain fog, baby.
Brain fog.
The fog of lost souls.
The fog of lost souls. What were you saying right before I started that?
We were talking about the deaths of despair.
Yes. So when this happened, every year, like, the thing of like people being like, oh my God, how could you go to a house party? 500,000 people have died. And I'm like, bitch, that is obesity deaths every year, every single year. And do you shed a tear for that? Fuck no. You're the one, these kinds of people are the ones who are like making fat positivity campaigns. Like, it's so mind boggling about like, and again, like what I was hoping when this first started, and I said it on the podcast, was that there would be a wake up call about our public health in this country. I was dubious because, Frito-Lay, Coca-Cola, Pepsi want us to just consume garbage.
Yeah.
And so the fatter the better. Like, because fat people are two things. They spend the most money on useless shit, and they also are the largest burdens on our healthcare system. And so I was hoping for the love of God, we would have a national conversation about this, but it's not happening.
I showed you that video of that woman on TikTok.
Holy shit.
It was insane. And I'm so glad none of you guys have brainworms like this. But like, it was so insane. It was like one of those TikToks where somebody starts the video and then another person jumps in and interrupts it completely.
Is there any way you can find that? I would love to play it.
Maybe. Shit, I don't think I saved it or anything.
Let me see if I can find it while you're explaining it.
Okay, yeah. But basically, it's one of those videos where somebody starts a TikTok and then they get interrupted by somebody else who finishes the TikTok. The person who started it was like, look, like, anytime somebody asks me to whether or not I'd wake up as a fat person tomorrow and be happy with it, the answer, and then she gets cut off immediately. And it's another woman. So both of them are black women talking about this fat phobia thing. Another woman cuts in who is saying like, look, I'm so happy you asked because none of you would wake up tomorrow and be happy to be fat because of oppression. And I'm thinking, like, she's talking about the systems that are in place that oppress fat people.
And she likes used the word systemic, which is important. Yeah.
The only valid point she makes is food deserts.
Yeah.
She actually,
which is a good,
does she say that in the video?
No, she didn't say that.
She didn't say that in the video. The comments were saying
it would have rang bells for me if she had said that.
Because she did not.
No.
And so basically she was like, oppression is the reason you wouldn't want to wake up tomorrow and be fat because it's just like being a black person. I'm like, whoa, that's a grand comparison to make there, because you can wake up tomorrow and like gradually change the fact that your weight that you have a certain weight
you're fat, you're a fat fuck. I mean, like
and tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and be like, I want to gain some weight. Like I could do the same.
Obviously, if you're disabled or whatever, but
very different.
But yeah, I mean, like, so and like, let's be real. Like, out of like, this entire country is fat. Like, mostly everybody in this country that lives here and is alive and breathing is a fat person. So thyroid disorders or disabilities, that's maybe 0.3% of fat people in this country. So shut the fuck up about that.
Aside from those and like proper issues that need to be fixed, which we don't need to mention, but like the food deserts and the poverty thing, like the reverse psychology that it's less expensive to buy fast food when it in fact is way more expensive, like that's much different. That's a much different thing, because that's something like the government could fix. They can build like government grocery stores.
But McDonald's
in areas
funds
that
Nancy
have
Pelosi and Mitch McConnell. I mean, like,
exactly.
So
they're never going to work to make us healthy.
No, and again, like, what's crazy is the largest comorbidity. Even like, it actually is the largest. Even above being elderly, that killed people from COVID was being obese.
Yeah.
And that has been so hidden. That reality has been so incredibly hidden. And again, like, it's crazy. So like, we live in like a lower income neighborhood and everyone's fat. I mean, like, everybody. And it's like the like, and this will get us into the George Floyd thing about like how we choose to talk about things is entirely about class. Because like, when you like, Long Beach is a great social experiment if you feel like if you have a really strong opinion about race or and like how like your race may affect things or whatever, you should drive around Long Beach. Like, Long Beach is a wild ride where it's like you can go to Belmont Shore, which is like a super wealthy area. People are largely white, but not always, healthy, fit, high income. You come to where we live and it's largely not white. I think we're the only white couple in the neighborhood, truly. And everyone here is obese, pretty much. I would say 70% are obese.
Yeah.
And poor, and like, so the intersection of race and class and poverty and unhealthy is so obvious. Like, even there's a car dealership like up Pacific Coast Highway that has like lease plans on cars, and they are the finance rate is so fucking high and the cost is so fucking high, but it manipulates people who are poor and are told by our consumer society that they're supposed to have something that looks nice, and not something that's practical and doesn't cost them money, and so they will be convinced by predatory, capitalism, like the worst version of it.
There are some comments, there are 3 in a row that I really want to read. So Greg says, it's weird to me how many people react to why you don't need to instead of good for you when I tell them I'm working on my weight, health, and fitness. And then Yana replies, they don't want you to change what they themselves might not have the determination to change. And then Jack says, someone called me ableist. Little did they know that I take depression naps when I run out of Ritalin.
Yeah. So like,
Greg and Yana, I think that's very apt. But these people have like some kind of like brain worm.
Well, like if you're fat and being honest with yourself, which I was a fat kid.
Exactly.
I understand. Like, every day I would, like, again, to that girl's point, who like literally tried to compare her racial struggle with
the TikTok
that she
girl
can't change,
with
something that she can change, which is her weight, which is. It's a crazy thing to do, and it means that you have zero integrity about like your points that you make. So like, to Greg's point is like, why would we have a show called The Biggest Loser, where we celebrate these fat fucks losing weight?
Who's the woman on that show?
Jillian Michaels.
I love that. Still such a fucking
alpha
icon,
dyke.
dude.
Yeah, she's the best.
I love that bitch.
She's the best.